Hello, welcome back to another episode of Read With Me. I'm so excited to continue reading with you. We are on chapter 2, part 2 of this amazing book called Big Money Energy by Ryan Serhant. It's so good. It's so good. If you haven't checked out the first video, if you haven't checked out chapter 2, part 2, make sure to do so because it's so good. It's so good. So make sure to do so. I promise you it's going to be really good. Okay, let's get into it because this is a good end of this chapter. And honestly, I love the way that it's laid out because I can it always happens. Like if it's a really good book and I can see myself kind of hearing that person say what they're actually writing, I lose track that I'm actually reading and I'm actually in the whole sphere of reading. So that's powerful. Those are, I believe, one of the best books on earth. Anyways, let's get into it, shall we? All right. So here are the 3 points of persuasion. That's how we're going to start this off. The 3 points of persuasion. Number 1, let it sink in. Number 2, solve a problem. And number 3, there's no room for no. Let's get into number 1. Let it sink in. I wasn't surprised when Mr. Defendant hung up on me the first time I called. I needed to show some patience. I was a random stranger calling him to ask if I could sell his apartment. I had to give him a moment to let the idea I had proposed to actually start to sink in. When I called him back, the seed of the idea had already been planted. So when I opened with, I can get you millions of dollars for your apartment, I had his attention. If someone isn't completely open to your idea the first time around, give them a minute to absorb what you've proposed and then try again. Chances are that you'll have better luck in round 2. Number 2, solve a problem. Mr. Defendant had a real problem. He was being sued and had tons of debt. Selling his apartment wouldn't just be a real estate transaction. It would be a solution to a massive problem. So demonstrate how the idea you're proposing can make someone's life easier or eliminate a problem altogether. If we hire another team member, we can take on more projects, bring in more income, and bonus, the workload will be spread out and we won't have to work every single weekend. It's hard for someone to say no if they can actually clearly see the benefits to saying yes. That's a good one. And then number 3, there is no room for no. When you're trying to persuade someone to follow a proposed course of action, never ask a question they can say no to. People respond better if offered options. So a yes or a no decision easily leads to a no. Do you want to buy this sweater is more likely to get you a negative response than did you want blue or green? They both looked great on you. Practice phrasing your request in a manner that leaves zero room to say no, otherwise known as open-ended questions. I love this one so much. The interviews pressed on. More Skypes and more written applications. Bravo is intense. I presented evidence about deals I was working on, including my massive Soho listing. The others were small but interesting, like the woman on the west side who had a safe room for all her designer clothes and kept her closets padlocked so no one viewing her apartment could run off with a Chanel jacket. I was getting increasingly excited about this opportunity. I had always enjoyed acting, and being on a reality show would give me an opportunity to use all my creative side while still working and paying my bills. And despite what my friends and family were thought, being a real estate broker on TV show would actually be like one giant commercial for my services. I figured the more people who knew I was a salesperson, the better. Imagine if one day I could walk down the street in New York and instead of no one noticing me, people would yell out their car and say, "Hey, aren't you that real estate guy from TV?" As I got further along the process, I saw the opportunity as a huge positive and I wanted it to happen. Finally, about 6 months after the initial interview when I blurted out that my favorite animal was an aardvark, a nocturnal insectivore, sometimes known as the earth pig. I got a call from the casting director. Hi, Ryan. We've narrowed it down to 16 brokers and you're one of them. We are coming in from LA and we'd like to have a film crew follow you for a few hours to see that what a typical day is like for you. So just do whatever is normal, and don't think about it. And don't plan anything too. Do what's normal. Normal for me was buying a bagel from the coffee cart on the street corner and eating it all before my client arrived. So they wouldn't see me with a cream cheese on my face. Normal was hoping clients didn't notice I had a giant armpit sweat stains from riding the hot subway. Normal was spending hours in front of a computer in an office that smelled like a hospital cafeteria. I was working hard, but it wasn't glamorous. I didn't have my own office or fancy lunches with clients like some brokers. Normal for me was not going to cut it. So I spent several nights pacing my empty apartment, thinking about how to present a picture of success to the casting crew. Then I made a decision. I was going to be my normal. There was no way I was going to leave it to chance that they'd be with me on a random Wednesday morning that wasn't busy. There was no guarantee I'd even have any showings for them to accompany me. I spent a lot of time doing follow-up and making cold calls while eating a sad death salad in a room full of other brokers. That didn't exactly scream success or be riveting television. So I had gotten so close to what I now saw was an amazing opportunity to grow my career that I wasn't going to let fate take control of my destiny. I wasn't going to let things just happen to me. I was going to be deliberate and steer the course of my life. If I wanted to get this job, I had to show what Big Ryan's Day looked like. If they cast me and film me as the low rent broker I am today, then people will see me that way all over the world when the show airs, and I'll only attract other low rent clients, I thought. Hey dude, just saw you on the show. Looks like things are tough and you're kind of down and out. Me too. So maybe you could help me find an apartment. My budget's $8.93. Definitely no. I wanted great clients with great big amounts of money, and those clients wouldn't only call me if they saw me as successful, as one of them. Once again, in order to succeed, I needed to amplify. Most days I would only get a handful of calls from my clients looking for an apartment, or maybe a few calling to cancel appointments last minute. Other days I would be booked on the hour every hour, and it seemed like my phone never stopped ringing. That is the Ryan that I wanted the casting directors to see. And that's the Ryan I would give them. I needed to be booked left and right, so I would appear so busy. I made several appointments and I asked all my friends and family to call me during the time I was with the casting people, just in case fate threw me a slower day. I wasn't going to leave how many calls I got to chance. So I said to all my friends and family, just call me between 7 a.m. and 12 p.m. And if I don't pick up, call again and keep calling until I answer. And then they were all like, yeah, sure, whatever, we'll call. I called this agent in our office named Mike, who I did deals with sometimes. He had a Range Rover. I need your car, I told him. I promise I will not wreck it. He sounded hesitant. Wait, you don't have a dog, do you? The last person I let borrow my car, her dog peed all over the back seats. It smelled like pee and wet dog hair for weeks. I was like, no dogs. I just needed to transport humans. I hoped it didn't still smell like pee, and I hoped it wasn't hairy. Okay, sure. Just get it back to me by 5 because I'm driving to Jersey to see my parents. And Ryan, have you ever driven in the city before? And then I was like, yeah, thanks, Mike. I told the casting crew to meet me at the boxing gym at 6 a.m. By the way, I hated boxing. So I will admit that the gym portion of the day I showed them was kind of BS. At the time, I thought you had to be a dick to be seen as a boss, but more on that later. I do work out every day, but with weights. But I wanted to look like a badass, and boxers are badasses, right? So I wanted everyone in LA to watch my casting tape and say, oh my God, hey, who is that badass boxing broker? So gritty, so New York. Cast him now. Sounds good, right? Well, the day arrives, and I'm at the gym throwing weird punches and awkwardly kicking a bag when the casting director, cameraman, and audio guy came dragging in. Obviously, not pleased with it being the crack of dawn, given they were on the West Coast time and super jet lagged. But they were still polite. I had told the main trainer, Eddie Lazinski, who was ultra intense ex-Army Ranger, to just make me look good and actually tough. He said, hey, say no more. Say no more. I almost died 15 times for this country. I know what to do. So when the camera crew walked in, he started jumping up and down, yelling like a madman. Serhant, you ready to go? Serhant, I can't hear you. Serhant. What is he doing? Like, yeah, let's go. And then he's like, let me hear you roar. The casting crew was staring at us like if we were watching a UFC cage match. I couldn't tell what level of terrified they were, but they started filming. Eddie jumped in the ring with me and started fighting me, Eddie. And then I was like, listen, Eddie, like, as I'm totally out of breath, like, dude, you're at a level 199 right now, and I need you to bring it down to like a level 8 and just box with me. Like, I don't want to die today. And then Eddie was like, okay, got it. Okay, yeah, got it, bro. So we started sparring, but he kept yelling regardless. Next, they wanted to see where a top New York City broker lived. And while I was making more money than I was before when I first started out, I didn't have a pile of spare cash just sitting around to decorate what was actually a nice apartment in the financial district. Nothing screams new college graduate with an entry level job quite like an empty apartment. A week before the shoot, I went to the furniture department at Macy's. I walked through the sample living rooms and bedrooms, looking for the ones that suggested good taste and class. I'll take these 2 rooms, please. I handed over my credit card and bought 2 entire rooms of furniture, thinking that I would probably be paying for this for the rest of my life. What's the fun in having a high interest rate credit card if you don't get to pay it off forever, right? We all piled into the Range Rover, the film crew in the back seat. I took a big breath pulling out into the street. I was careful not to show, but I was terrified. I had never, ever, not once been behind the wheel of a new car, let alone in New York City, let alone someone else's $90,000 car. Driving in Manhattan is like being dropped into the real life video game. You have to dodge speeding taxis, buses, trucks, countless food delivery bikes, and clueless humans who are glued to their phones and can step in front of your car at any given time. When my friend bravely handed over the keys to his car, he provided a warning. People get into accidents in the city because they are being overly safe. So I said, F it. Big Ryan doesn't play it safe. I floored it. The crew freaked out. They were hanging on to the side of the car while filming me driving like a maniac. As we flew downtown at breakneck speed, I shouted into the backseat about points of interest. If you look to the left, you'll see the famous Wall Street Bull. And hey, did you guys see the Trinity Church and Alexander Hamilton's tombstone? Yeah, well, we just passed that. You know, to be the best in New York, you have to play offense 24/7, even while driving. Ha 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 ha. I swear, I think the sound guy peed himself just a little bit. Miraculously, and much to the relief of the nauseous crew, we made it to the apartment in one piece. Just as I hoped, my phone was ringing like crazy. The Saudis' wire didn't go through? Okay, no worries. I'll get back to you. The crew wasn't looking around my apartment, noticing my surfboard, which was my friend's, road bike, which was my other friend's, and longboard, which was another friend's. As I got dressed, I kept taking calls as I was straightening my tie. Hi, yeah, that's great. That they want to make an offer for 3.4 million. I'm not sure that's going to be enough unless you want me to split the difference with me. I can afford it, but not sure about you. I'll call you back. I took another call in the elevator. Hi, Ryan, it's your mother. You told me to call you. What's going on? Why are you in such a hurry? I responded, yes, I'm thrilled you want to put your place on the market. I'll have my assistant send over the paperwork. And then his mom was like, you're what? You don't have an assistant, Ryan. This is your mother. What are you talking about? Are you okay? My phone kept ringing as the crew reluctantly got back into my death car so I could drive us to Gramercy, where I was showing a 3-bedroom penthouse to a banker. When I met with my client, who was actually legit, not a friend, and who miraculously agreed to let a film crew capture the showing as long as it never aired anywhere. It was clear he was having a bad day. He had crumpled Wall Street Journal under his arm and a half-eaten bacon, egg, and cheese bagel sandwich in the other hand. And then he mentions that the market sucks today. So I hope you're not wasting my time with this apartment. The crew watched anxiously as I showed the angry banker the great view he'd have from his master bedroom. By the time I showed him the rest of the apartment, the chef's kitchen with granite island and the top of the line appliances and 12-foot ceilings with floor to floor ceiling windows overlooking the city, his mood had notably improved. He was interested in the apartment. Yes. When my client left, I took a quick glance at it at the time. I was like, it was only 10 a.m. How is that even possible? Like, I felt as if my stomach had suddenly dropped from the penthouse directly down to the basement. I was supposed to let them follow me around for 3 more hours. This was all supposed to make this was all supposed to take much longer. I literally had nothing else to do. No showings, no meetings. The one other showing was I was going to take them to bailed on me while we were speeding through the city. The film crew stood there waiting to see what was next. How was I going to deal with this? Top brokers do not have slow moments. You don't make millions by doing nothing. And this was really, really powerful. And if you aren't taking notes right now, this is a really good one to take notes. He mentions flip the script. As I was thinking about how I was going to improvise 3 more hours of acting, like I was this big time broker, my phone rang. Hi, my name is Mary, and I'm calling about the 1 bedroom you have listed for rent for $1,900 per month in Chelsea. Can I see it? Well, I couldn't take the film crew to see that listing since it was most definitely not $1 million listing. While Mary continued to talk about how she want what she was looking for and asking if the apartment was dog friendly and if it was okay that her dad would be paying for the rent for her, I went into the bathroom, sweating about my fate while listening to Mary's Long Island accent. I suddenly remembered a date that I had gone to not too long ago. I had met a girl for drinks and we were headed to dinner next. But then her phone rang just as we were walking out of the bar. After she hung up, she looked at me and said, Ryan, I'm having such a good time with you, really. This is great. I'm sorry though, I have to leave and I'll call you later. She was super nice about it while not being overly apologetic. She tossed just the littlest dash of I don't care my way before she confidently walked out the door. I wasn't upset at all. She just seemed confident, strong, and in control, all while being nice. I was like, wow, I definitely wanted to go out with her again. So even though she just rejected me, she rejected me with class on the go. Okay. Think about that. And then, as he's still in the bathroom, Chelsea, the girl that he was on the phone with while he was daydreaming about that one date, she's like, hello, are you even there? Can you show me the next apartment? I focused my attention back to Mary. I quickly gave her the address and told her I'd meet her in 20 minutes. I hung up the phone and went back to the film crew, and I said to them, I am so incredibly sorry. Something big has just come up and I must deal with it immediately. Really, if you need anything more from me at all, just call. I gave them 3 phone numbers in case they couldn't get. I gave them 3 phone numbers, and I was like, in case they couldn't get me on the first one, but they would definitely get me on the first one because the other numbers weren't actually real. Only my mom called me every day. But when people think that you are so busy that you need 3 phones, it automatically changes their perception of you. Again, I apologize, but it can't be helped. I'll get you whatever you need. And with that kind of but clear dash of I don't care, I left them alone in the apartment and I checked out with class, looking confident, strong, and in control. I could see them watching me out the window from the penthouse as I got into my friend's Range Rover. So I forgot. And as I got into my friend's Range Rover, I actually forgot how to start it. So I was like, ah, and then it was like push to start, and then I was off. Okay. It would be several more long months before I learned that I would be on the cast of the premiere season of Million Dollar Listing. To one day air to 25 million people around the world. Well, I don't think ditching the film crew was the moment that made my casting director think, yes, I want him. I do believe that things would have ended differently if I hadn't flipped the script back into my favor. Cutting the day short was ultimately about controlling the situation. It wasn't about properly managing a positive perception of myself. I needed to maintain the perception that I was busy, making huge deals all day long. I was often busy during that time. I was making more deals, but I had to manage perception in that specific moment, or it would look like I wasn't doing much or of nothing at all. And no one cares about what your life is like when they're not watching. Back when I was trying to be a hand model, or back when I was trying to be a model, I remember there were days where I'd have an audition, and on that day of all days, I get a huge zit right in the middle of my forehead. Why couldn't the audition be on a clear skin day? Now the casting director is going to think that I have zits all over my forehead all the time and won't cast me. That's what I thought. And that's exactly what would happen. I wasn't going to let that happen to me now or ever again. If I hadn't flipped the script, this crew would have watched me eat lunch at my desk, return phone calls, and write a bunch of emails. Not thrilling stuff. That's not big. They would have listened to me tell stories about busy days I had previously had and about crazy phone calls from the week before. And they would have been bored. People with big money energy understand that there is no magic moment when you leave small energy behind forever to transform permanently into something bigger and more powerful. There will always be moments when life throws you something unexpected, when the perception of who you are can be challenged. A core part of having big money energy is holding on to the perception that you're strong, confident, and in control, and even when it feels like you aren't. As I continued driving downtown, more slowly this time, to my rental client, I realized that while, yes, I might have ditched the film crew and I might have never get on this show, I had proven to myself that I was capable of taking on concrete steps to control my energy. I had learned that it was Big Ryan who embodied what I wanted in life. It was Big Ryan who drove that Range Rover, who got up early to box with an Army Ranger, who juggled phone calls easily, had a great showing, and most importantly, was able to hold it all together the very moment it all could have fallen apart. saying, well, sorry guys, I know it's only 10 a.m., but that's all I got. Who wants pancakes? And that was not going to help my transformation into big rhyme. So I controlled the narrative. I didn't let the reality of the situation control me. I understood that the day I had the power to take back control of my life just by changing my energy, that is when everything changed. I parked the Range Rover and my phone rang as I was walking to the building on West 8th Street to meet Mary and her dad. It was the banker who had seen the penthouse this morning. He thought the camera crew was kind of cool and he wanted to make an offer. How freaking cool is that? Here's code number 3. Fill your mind with positive thoughts for at least 10 seconds before meeting anyone. If your head is in a good place, you'll exude positivity and confidence, and it will set the tone for the meeting. That is a really, really, really good one. And here are some emergency exit power lines. Sometimes we find ourselves at work in situations that we need to get out of, like immediately. So whether it's a meeting that's running too long, or a phone call you just can't get out of, or a client who doesn't get the hint that you have to get to another appointment, or you're just trying to save your face like pre-BME Ryan with the film crew, use one of these lines to end the conversation and extract yourself from the situation gracefully. He lists a couple. I'm going to share them with you. So something suddenly came up and I have to handle right away. I'm so sorry. I'm so glad we got to start this process. I look forward to the next steps and I'll get back to you ASAP. You know what? I think we've established our objective. I'll be in touch about how to continue. Thanks. I wish I didn't have the rest of my morning book so we could continue this conversation. This has been great, but my next appointment is on the way. I'm so glad I got to meet you. I'll touch base with you about this tomorrow. Those are all really good, especially when you're on a Zoom call that is taking way too long and you're like, I need to go. Anyways, I love him so much. That was chapter 2, the end of chapter 2, part 2 of Big Money Energy. So make sure to check out the next video where we go into chapter 3. Chapter 3 also has 2 parts to it because it's built really, really well. So I'm excited to read with you guys in the next video. Make sure to hit like, subscribe, share this with a friend, and make their life way better. It'll bring a smile to them. It'll bring a smile to you. This is a win-win scenario. And you know what? Fill your mind with positive thoughts. You got this. Big Money Energy. And, you know, I wish I didn't have the rest of my morning book so we could continue this conversation. This has been great, but, you know, my next appointment is on the way. So I'll talk to you soon.